Afternoon. It's wonderful to see you all here today. There are so many of you. It really is fantastic to see so many smiling faces. Thank you. Some housekeeping. I'm told that there are toilets out there, and there is a disabled toilet just outside the door. If there is, in the very unlikely event, a fire alarm, the stairs are also there. Just a reminder, this meeting is one where you are, as always, responsible for your own conduct. And we have put in the Google Drive for everybody a reminder on slander and libel. If you are at home, welcome to you. I hope you can see us easily. We are running a hybrid meeting, so please be patient, because sometimes it's not as easy as it looks. If you are at home, please can you make sure that you've got your name on the screen, so that we know who you are. I'm just going to turn around on the slant. I apologize, because I'm looking on the screen and I'm trying to balance between people seeing me at home, because I look like they're not seeing me. If you do not have your name, you may well be asked to leave the meeting, or you will be exited from the meeting. So can you please ensure that you do? And when you speak, can you please give your name and your constituency? So thank you very much. If there is a point of order that anybody wants to raise, we have Tony Leifer, Chair of the Constitution Committee, who's here in person until 2:10, and we have Colin Grazing on Zoom, who will deal with the initial question, and then of course it will be discussed with me for me to decide any points of order. So thank you very much for housekeeping, and a hearty welcome once again to everybody. It's very good to be back. Can I check at the back of the room? Can you hear me? Loud and clear. Is louder better? Okay, fine. People always worry I can't be heard, but I'm sure that you'll make it known. Thank you. Any comments on the minutes from last time? I take them as approved. Jerry Lewis.
Very good. Gave him just notice this morning. If you would like to refer to the note, please. Otherwise, I will repeat it.
If you have a point of order, could you please go and? Well, I'm sorry. I'm running a meeting. I'm really sorry. I'm not. If you want to tell us what your comment, what the amendment is, you can read it out. That would be really helpful.
There is not an amendment. There is just a clarification. Sorry,
So I'm really sorry, Jerry. Could you tell us the words that you think should be in the minutes that you say are not there?
There are no words. It's just an announcement by you that the arrangement last time for the Ajax resolution was not precedent setting. Give that's fine, please.
I'm really sorry. I'm dealing with the minutes here. I'm really sorry. If anybody, including Jerry, has got any comments on the minutes, if they're incorrect, then they need to say what the minutes are. Jerry, if you have a complaint about Ajax having their name changed from last time, then I've written to you. You're very welcome to make a complaint, but I have to deal with the minutes at the minute. So I take the minutes as approved. I've got, thank you. Dory Schmetterling online. I'm just concerned that I can't see that many people online.
91 people.
No, making with their hands up.
The hands ones always can't.
First, thank you. Right, Dory, hello, good morning. Can you say your name and constituency, please?
Dory Schmetterling, New West End Synagogue, Bayswater, London. A very minor point on page 1 with Russell Conn's welcome. It says Russell formally welcomed the president, but really it should be formally.
Thank you for that. That's very That's that's very helpful. We will correct that. Thank you. Are there any other comments on the minutes? Then I would take the minutes as approved. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next up, I'm delighted to welcome to speak Nina Friedman, who's done a fantastic year as UJS president. I can't believe that year is nearly up. You've certainly had so much to do, and you've met the challenges so very, very well. And of course, we will want to welcome incoming new UJS president Joel Rosen. Nina, it's absolutely wonderful to give you the opportunity to speak. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Nina, and I'm the president of the Union of Jewish Students, representing almost 9,000 Jewish students across the UK and Ireland. I first would like to extend my thanks to the board for inviting me here to speak today. And this feels like a bit of a bittersweet moment as I'm coming to the end of a 2.5-year stint on the board. So this is quite sad that this is my last meeting for now. My past year in office has truly been the experience of a lifetime. Thanks to UJS, I've met people I never thought I would meet, been places I never thought I would go, and done things I never thought I would do. But the most rewarding thing of all has been to see the Jewish student community grow after the impact of the pandemic. Though COVID was certainly not a fun time for anyone, it was especially challenging for my peers who had their prime years of university stolen from them. We are often told that university is supposed to be the best years of our life, and this becomes difficult to reconcile with being trapped in halls of residence for months on end. So this past year gave us an opportunity to reconnect students from all over the country, bringing back that feeling of community closeness that is so emblematic of UJS. This year, we have hosted bigger events than ever before and engaged with a record number of students, unlike any other year in UJS history, which is something that I'm personally very proud of. Students have returned to interacting with their Jewish community in a variety of ways, from Friday night dinners to UJS's first ever silent disco with over 300 students in Shrewsbury. Of course, the return of vibrant Jewish student life has also brought its challenges. As students poured back onto university campuses in their thousands, some Jewish students dreaded the inevitable surge of anti-Semitism that would come with this. But thanks to our incredible cohort of student activists, we've been able to face these challenges head on with unprecedented success. Whether it was the brave students at Bristol who stood up against the hatred of an academic, resulting in his removal last October, or the JSOC at Liverpool, who used their eloquence and nuance to successfully counter a BDS referendum at their university, I've been so proud of our students who go beyond the port of call to be advocates for our Jewish community. And through it all, UJS has been there as a helping hand to guide our activists and being there to catch them if they fall. We proudly led the call for NUS to launch an investigation into their president-elect, writing an open letter that gained over 1,500 signatures in a matter of hours. And we are running anti-Semitism awareness training for thousands of university and students' union staff members every year, addressing the root of Jew hatred through education. We have been nurturing Jewish students so they are ready to stand up for what they believe in through political advocacy training and religious empowerment. Like generations before us, we refuse to sit by while our community is attacked, and we are leading the charge against anti-Semitism, both on campus and beyond. We are running grassroots campaigns like the newly created Anti-Semitism Awareness Week, alongside high-level government engagement, such as our conference in conjunction with the Department for Education in February. Too often, the older generations of our community think that they need to speak for students, that we do not possess the experience or wisdom to represent ourselves. But I'm here to tell you that this is patently untrue. The Jewish students that I have been privileged to lead for the past year are strong, empowered, and incredibly knowledgeable. They know how to fight their own battles, and they are winning on all fronts across the country. What they need from you is the space and the seat at the table to continue to do this fantastic work. UJS continues to be a central pillar of our Jewish community. We are the training ground for young Jewish activists to cut their teeth and first learn how to be politically active. Nowadays, campus is the battleground on which many fights such as anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment are first fought. and we at UJS are arming young people with the tools and armour to be ready for these fights. Now more than ever, it is vital that the Jewish community is behind us and ready to uplift our voices when it counts. So next time you're discussing Jewish student issues or lamenting the scourge of anti-Semitism on campus, take a look around the room and see whose voices are being included. Jewish students are ready and eager to take up the fight. They just need some of you to move over just a little bit and give them the space to do it. Thank you.
And I'm just going to say, Nina, I'm standing up for you. You have done a fantastic job, and I really want to salute you. It really has been a really difficult year, and you've got an incredible smile. And through thick and thin, you did the most incredible speech. I remember at breakfast with President Herzog. You spoke really, really so very well. I think you've done a huge credit to being UJS president. You really have. So absolutely well done. Thank you. So moving on. Now we've got the president's statement. Let's have some good news, some muzzle tops. So to Sid Bram on the bar mitzvah of his grandson, muzzle top. To Judith Princely on the engagement of your daughter, Charlotte. To Karina Kaufman, I don't think Vicky Harris is here. Vicky Harris's daughter are online, good, thank you. And also daughter-in-law of the late and very treasured Flo Kaufman, Zichrona Livracha, former treasurer and vice president of the board of deputies, of course, and granddaughter of Zina Cohen Zivracha Livracha, former chairman of the board's Shechita committee. And since achieving bronze in the Standard World Duathlon Age Group Championships, that's incredible. Karina has gone on to win gold in her age group. That really is an incredible achievement. We have Refuah Shalema to Andrew Gilbert following his recent surgery, and also Refuah Shalema to Lord Dubbs, who was going to come and speak to us today. So unfortunately, he's not going to be able to do that, but we are wishing him and Andrew well. Can I just start once again with the Queen's Jubilee, just to say how honoured I was to be able to represent the Board of Deputies at St Paul's Cathedral for the Platinum Jubilee. It really was the honour of a lifetime and a real tribute to the Board of Deputies that was established to pay homage to King George III. And not only did I attend, I was given a front row seat, which was absolutely incredible. And we were made part of the procession as well, the interfaith procession. And it just was the most incredible experience. And we then walked to the Guildhall. The streets were paved with thousands of well-wishers. It was wonderful, and a wonderful reception. And we had the honour of Princess Beatrice coming to speak to us in our room. So it was a huge honour to the Jewish community, and again, something that I will always remember and be proud of for all of us. And since last time, of course, we've had our regional weekend, and that was also a fantastic opportunity to be able to connect with everybody. And it was the first time that we had been together in large numbers. So again, this is just going forwards, baby steps, but we're getting used to hybrid meetings. And again, being patient is always going to be a good thing. But the chance to meet people was amazing. In addition to the President's statement, can I just cover a couple of additional points? Deputies will remember that there were various news stories in April that the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, had dropped a charge of racially aggravated assault against a man alleged to have carried out what was clearly a string of assaults against Jewish people. This took place in August 2021. And we publicly called this out at the time, and we wrote to the CPS because we felt that they were not serving the community correctly. They were not doing their job. They clearly should be prosecuting people where there is racially aggravated assault. And we eventually heard back from Barry Hughes, the Chief Crown Prosecutor for London North, and the case was reviewed, and that was a good thing, and the charge was reinstated. But that wasn't enough, because we want to make sure going forwards that the CPS are doing what we think they should be doing, serving the community appropriately. So we asked for a meeting with a senior representative of the CPS, and we said that really the incident in August 2021 was just the latest really in a long line of cases where the Jewish community, to be frank, felt that the CPS had fallen short in prioritising anti-Semitic hate crime. So on Friday before Shabbat, myself, our Chief Executive, Michael Weger, and the Director of Public Affairs, Daniel Sugarman, met Lionel Eden, Chief Crown Prosecutor for London South, and we discussed these issues in a lot more detail. I'm pleased to say it was a very positive meeting. It was very, very productive. He absolutely listened and agreed and understood about our position. He gave absolute apologies, assurances that they want to do better in the future, and have agreed to the idea of the CPS participating in an event with the Board of Deputies, which will be open to the wider Jewish communities, where deputies have the chance to ask questions and receive answers directly from the CPS. So we now have a very clear channel of communication. There's a willingness to work with the Board of Deputies. We will have more meetings and opportunities, and we'll be letting you know about the event as soon as we've got details. But we think that is a signal that there should be progress going forwards. Some other things to update you on. The position with Netflix and Roald Dahl, this is something that I had been raising last year, had not been resolved satisfactorily. We had not been hearing, and to be frank, it's not something that we should leave. We've had a look again at the museum in Great Missenden, and we cannot see any evidence there that there's been any acknowledgement of the anti-Semitism from Roald Dahl, which we think is very important, and that Netflix has to take some responsibility and to make sure that his anti-Semitism is also understood. So after several letters, shall we say, we've managed to get the Vice President of PR, Ruth Settle, to agree with the Roald Dahl Story Company to have a meeting, which I think is going to be July the 5th. So we'll update you. But this is something that I also personally feel very, very strongly on, because they're going to make millions from these movies, and it's all going to be glorified, and the real person mustn't be forgotten. Although of course everybody loves the stories, we need to make sure that his background is fully understood. And the other thing that I want to highlight, and I want to thank Jonathan Arkush, because with me we both attended the recent Church of England cleric disciplinary measure proceedings brought against Reverend Sizer for various allegations of anti-Semitism. I was cross-examined for, I think, 4 or 5 hours. Jonathan Arkush was also cross-examined. Very, very difficult situation. I won't be able to say any more at the moment, but we are expecting the outcome of that maybe next month or into July. And I'll give you reassurance that we will let you know as soon as possible. But this was a very serious complaint to bring. It was the first of its kind, and the church needs to take responsibility for people like Reverend Sizer. I'll now have the floor open open to questions. And I'm also now looking online to see any raised hands. So I'm told that there's Joel Rosen on Zoom, but I can't see his hand. Joel, you're first, and congratulations to you. We're very much looking forward to working with you. Fantastic achievement.
Thank you so much, Marie. Can I just begin by paying tribute to Nina and her team on all of the incredible work they've done this past year, engaging thousands of students. I'm speaking to you from one of the campuses that Nina's visited, and UJS have run events on. Jewish student life is thriving, and I think it's thanks to the hard work of UJS and our family of 70 Jewish societies across the country that Jewish life is thriving. I know that this year's team of sabbatical officers have worked incredibly hard and have left a really indelible mark on our community and a legacy I seek to build on. Can I ask you about the passage of the Nationality and Borders Bill and refugee policy more widely? I think we're seeing the criminalisation of asylum seekers from the Rwanda deal to government policy more generally. And I was wondering, Marie, if the board is stressing the importance of legal routes in conversations with government and with the Home Office in particular, and whether the board was raising the government's indefensible Rwanda policy with ministers. Thank you.
Hi, look, this is a really, really difficult position. I think many people in the community feel incredibly strongly. In the answers to the President's questions, the question was asked by Ilana Keelis. I've expressed the huge concern, both in relation to the Nationality and the Borders Bill, and my personal discomfort and great concern about the government wanting to send refugees to Rwanda. Refugee Week, I think, is very important. The board's position on that has long been clear, that refugees should be treated humanely in accordance with Jewish values, and our Jewish manifesto is very clear that politicians should promote fair policies towards migrants, asylum seekers and refugees, and take pains not to encourage hatred or baseless suspicion towards these groups. And I'm very uncomfortable, and I have a history myself. My grandfather was from the Kinder Transport. I know that I owe my life in this country to the UK, but still we can't, in my view, ignore how refugees are being treated. It really does touch us all, and anything that we can do, I think that we should. And I know the great British public are opening their doors to Ukrainian refugees, and I urge the government to reassess and look at the policy on Rwanda. The next person pleased to speak is Lee Dworkin. Sorry, Lee.
Okay, Lee Dworkin, Maidenhead Synagogue. Madam President, I'm sure you'll have seen the front page of the Jewish Chronicle this week, comparing the new schools bill to the Spanish Inquisition and Jewish persecution in the Dark Ages over plans to regulate Haredi yeshivot. However, to me, this seems an extreme interpretation. It's important that the Board of Deputies help the Haredi community to maintain many of their practices and much of their lifestyle. But when it comes to protecting Jewish children, be it their right to basic English skills or to have safeguards against abuse, will the board intervene to persuade the Haredi community to accept the same government controls that all other schools accept, just as do all deputies in our children's schools? Thank you.
Thank you. I think the Haredi community have got the right to protest, which they have done as part of their community, and all of us, including the Haredi community, will ultimately need to follow what the government decides. I'm sure it's clear that we can't impose the Haredi community to feel any differently. We are certainly here if we can help anyway, but they do have the right to protest, and I hope that they will work with the government and with Ofsted to come up with a solution which is acceptable to everyone. And we will, of course, remember in the past that the Chief Rabbi has had an excellent policy on bullying, and we all agree that children should not be bullied in schools, and safeguarding, of course, is of the utmost importance in all areas of life. I think that's also evident. People will have noticed that the Board of Deputies has suspended activities with the European Jewish Congress. So I think that the board's responses to safeguard speaks for itself. But I hope again that there will be an acceptable solution on all sides for the Haredi community. Thank you. The next person who's in the room, thank you, Lawrence Julius.
Lawrence Julius Harif. Dear Marie, may I congratulate the board for including Jewish refugees from Arab countries in its Refugee Week activities. The event with Professor Green, Richard Stursberg and Edwin at Mill Hill Synagogue, a part of their program, is well worth attending, and I encourage everyone to attend. There's also a Harif talk on the 12th of July as part of this program. This year is the 55th anniversary of the Six-Day War and the terrible reaction against the remaining Jews in Arab countries, particularly Iraq, Libya and Egypt. Imprisonment, execution, torture, public hanging just for being Jewish. I would like to ask the board to give its support to the 30th November Day commemoration of the exodus of Jews from Arab countries being organised by Harif, JW3 and the Israeli Embassy, as they have done in previous years. Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely. And I have given with pleasure my support in the past, and we would be delighted to give support on the 30th of November. That work is very, very, very important. So thank you for that. Next in the room, Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis, Hampstead Synagogue. Madam President, two issues. First of all, one which has already been referred to briefly by a previous caller. I attended the demonstration at Westminster Parliament, Westminster Square the other afternoon, and undertook an interview with the Rabbi Rat, who is leading the demonstration on raising the case. Can we have some indication from the board? Have they been approached either by the Department for Education or by the Haredi community on this issue? If so, what advice would they give? Second of all, I ascertained from the rabbi, but not in an interview, that he hadn't spoken to Rabbi Guttentag, who runs an operation for Dati schools, not Haredi schools. Have there been any discussions with him? I also asked the rabbi very clearly, what plans did they have if the Department for Education turns down their request? Were they prepared to leave the country? He said, absolutely no, but we are not going to change our position. What advice are you going to give the Haredi community should they try and put yeshivas underground? The other issue is what I raised a few minutes ago, Madam president, and I would make it very clear this is not an anti-Ajax move. This is just a clarification from you as president as to whether the procedure which was used at the last meeting in May, which was certainly not within the bounds of our constitution, does not create a precedent. And it's all simple matter for you to say, no, it will not create a precedent. If you can't give that assurance, then can it please be referred to the Constitution Committee so that they can decide on your behalf? But it can't be allowed to stand as it was. Thank you.
I think the first part of what Jerry has said is, thank you, very, very important to remember that the Haredi community is not homogenous. There are many different parts and different views within the community. I have been given press release information from Rabbi Grat, and as I say, they have got the right to protest. If they say they are leaving the country, they obviously are saying that they feel very strongly. The board is absolutely available if the Haredi community wants us to intervene in any way. And again, I'm going to express the wish that there is a negotiated solution by everyone, which is clearly in the interest of the community and in the interests of the government to try and make sure that happens. The most important thing, of course, are the children and safeguarding, and to make sure that children are not bullied in school. In relation to Ajax, I think Jerry is referring to the vote last time. Jerry has said, and this was the case, that there wasn't 28 days notice given. And the Constitution Committee, unfortunately, they are human like the rest of us, didn't notice this, and it slipped through the net. As far as I could see, the vote was overwhelming and nothing turns on it. It was a change of name. If Jerry wants to say that that is invalid, then of course Jerry has got the right to bring a complaint. If that's what Jerry wants to do, he should make the complaint through the Constitution Committee, and if the complaint is upheld, then of course there would be a vote again. These things do happen, but I can't myself see that anything turns on it. I really can't. But if Jerry wants to, please, Jerry, that is your absolute right. That's what the Constitution
That's not
is
what I
there
want.
for. Thank you. Thank you. Next online, thank you. We have Susan Pascoe.
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Susan Pascoe, Israel Community. There's nothing in your statement or the International Division report condemning Iraq for its law criminalizing ties with Israel, which would sentence to death or life imprisonment those with links or who communicate with Israel. Please, can you let us know why you haven't commented on it publicly? Because it's obviously of very serious concern. Thank you.
I agree with you that that is a very, very serious concern. And can I ask David to address that in his statement as his first point? So he will address that, but absolutely, it is of the utmost seriousness. Thank you, Susan. Next, online, we have Andrew Gilbert. And we are very pleased to see you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, President. Noting your comments about the CPS, London Jewish Forum, as part of their role with the Metropolitan Police London Jewish Forum, which we co-run with the Vice President Amanda Bowman, also present at the meeting, we met also with CPS, and they alluded to two particular areas in terms of whether or not they would make a charge. One was there enough evidence? And the second was it in the public interest? See, and this was something we spent a considerable amount of time discussing in the meeting we had with them, and it was a useful presentation. And we are committed with the board to have meetings with the three regional parts of the CPS, London North, London South, and East of England, that we were that covers Hertfordshire. And we were looking and hoping that the board also, as well, but either through yourself or through Vice President Amanda Bowman, would be looking to the regional parts of the CPS, because much of this is done regionally, and Manchester, Leeds, Scotland and other places really should be increasing their relationships locally with CPS and really making it clear, educating CPS on our issues, making it clear, and also joining up the relationship between what is going on in the local police, both on a county or a wide, but also in a local borough command situation, and with the CPS. And this is causing a whole series of issues that have come up where the prosecutions we want and CST wanted to happen might not have happened. And this could be because of the sense of, was there not enough evidence? Was there not enough witnesses? Was there not enough? And then also with the CPS, was it in public interest? So, President, perhaps you would join me in giving assurances that yourself or Vice President Amanda Bowman would take this forward with all the regions so we can really develop an on-the-ground continued relationship with the CPS.
Thank you very much for that. It's very, very helpful. And what's good is the fact that the CPS do want to engage. Thank you, Andrew, for your work. We are all going to take it forward. I agree that regionally is important, but what the CPS needed to know from the wider Jewish community is that their record just hasn't been good enough. They haven't delivered what they should do. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of opportunities nationally and regionally for all of us to be involved, and they have expressed a willingness to do this. And we do also want to give recognition to CST because they also do a very, very good job with the CPS, and I know they have a number of events, but the board's role is different because we want to make sure that people and other organisations shouldn't need to have private prosecutions, because the CPS should be doing their job and they should be prosecuting people where there is hate crime. And as Andrew has said, the evidence is important, and also where it's in the public interest. And where it's in the public interest is something that I really want to stress, because race hate must be prosecuted and seen to be prosecuted. And I'm still very concerned, if anybody's listening, why the people who caused all that trouble and attacked people on the bus in Oxford Street before Hanukkah, why they have not been found, because they are identifiable on video. So remember, the CPS has to also have the evidence to enable them to prosecute from the police. There's also that part to it as well. But yes, we will be making sure that we have a programme, and want to thank Andrew also for their contribution. But we have to make sure that we protect our community. So we are taking this forward. Mervyn Smith, you're on Zoom. I would go to someone in the room, but you're all being very quiet. You're leaving it to everybody on Zoom. Morning, Melvin.
Thank you, Madam President. Andrew Gilbert's, in fact, raised the point eloquently with regard to the matter that I want to raise, because I have a fear that this may just be kicked down the path by the CPS, and I think it is so terribly important that I hope it will have all the attention that you are able to provide and express against the matters concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Amos Schonfield, also on Zoom. Come on, the room. You must be able to put forward a question. Amos, welcome.
Thank you, Marie. Amos Schonfield, Deputy for Masorti Judaism and from the Social Justice Committee as well. Can I just associate myself with your refuah shlema to Lord Dubs, who unfortunately can't join us today, and I hope that we'll be able to find a time for him to join us soon. I wanted to flag our other Refugee Week event just so that it's on the front of everyone's mind. It is this Friday at noon on Zoom, so join us over your lunch break. Get yourself a bagel and come and listen. It's called Being Human. There are two formidable speakers from Freedom from Torture, Dr. Juliette Cohen and Kolbasia Hausu. And we also have the CEO of the Refugee Council, which is the main refugee agency in the UK, and the Solomon. And Michael Uyghur is introducing, and it's chaired by Harriet Goldenberg, who is, of course, one of our fellow deputies, and she convenes the refugee working group. With this in mind, I just wanted to come back to the issue of the forced deportations to Rwanda. Joel asked previously about meetings with the Home Office. Have there been any meetings with the Home Office? Have there been communications with the Home Office? If they haven't been done so on the issue of Rwanda, when were they last held? It's not something that, it's not a complicated issue for the board. It's something that we've been very vocal about. So I think it's really important to continue to be vocal, especially when we are showing our solidarity and support to refugees, particularly refugees at the moment from Ukraine. I don't want us to be perpetuating a double standard between refugees from one country versus others. So I really want to just make sure that we as deputies get to the bottom of the facts of when are we meeting with the Home Office, who isn't meeting at the Home Office, when did this last take place, and have we been in communication over Rwanda? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. The good thing about the President's statement is it's the President's statement, so the President can give her view. So I've given you my view on Rwanda and refugees. In relation to the board itself, the board hasn't asked for any meetings with the Home Office, Amos, so I just need to make that point clear to you. Thank you. We've got one in the room. No. Well done. Jonathan Brody.
Jonathan Brody, Kingsbury Synagogue. Just could you clarify something for me? In the relation to CPS, there's the question of public interest brought up, and it's not clear to me, is that where it's not in the public interest to charge people, or where they're being charged but it's not in the public interest to treat anti-Semitism as an aggravating factor in the charge? Just if you could clarify. Thank you.
I'd love to be able to clarify that, but I'm probably not able to. But clearly the point I was making, and Andrew Gilbert was making, when the CPS decide to charge, they first of all look at the evidence, and they then consider whether it's in the public interest to charge. So if something's not serious or not important or isn't impactful, then they may not charge. I'm stressing the point that any crime, racially motivated crime, absolutely should be prosecuted and seen to be prosecuted. And the example in August 21 was very, very clear, and there was no excuse for the charges to be dropped. It's all work in progress. So we're going to work much more with the CPS to make sure that they deliver what we think they should be. And they, in fairness, said that they are just as concerned as we are to make sure that hate crime is prosecuted. And people need to know that Jews should not be attacked, and there are many different types of Jews as well. And we also need to continue all of our work, our Jewish Living exhibition and the schools program that we're going to do with ADL, so that people can also understand there are many different types of Jews as well. So education, I think, is also an important, and as Andrew said, local and national dialogue is always good. And it was an open door. So it was a very, very good first meeting. So I'm looking forward to the follow-up. Thank you. Thank you. And after that, we've got a question in the room. Joe Miller on Zoom. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Ray. Joe Miller, Muswell Hill. I've also got a question about the welfare of Jewish children in Jewish schools. You might remember last year I asked you a question after JFS went into special measures over welfare concerns, and you suggested that it wasn't really a role for the board to get involved. Now that King David's School has followed suit and gone into special measures again over serious welfare concerns about the 800 Jewish students that attend that school, I was hoping that the board could reconsider whether the welfare of hundreds of Jewish children across the country educated in Jewish schools is our business or not.
Thank you for your question. Of course, it's all of our business and we're all really concerned, but we mustn't forget the expertise in the community of pages, because pages are responsible for Jewish schools and they have the expertise. I'm hearing the concern from the floor. What we'll do is we'll make contact with pages. We'll see if we can ask them to have a meeting to express the concerns that you've been raised, but we can't duplicate their expertise in those areas. But we're all reading stories that are upsetting us, and we've all got, and I've got teenage children at school, and I realise it matters to all of us. So what we'll do is we'll make contact with pages. It's a good opportunity, and then we'll report back to you. We're going to have to start limiting the questions. I'm told I'm out of time, but I want to try and take a few more to see who's waiting. I can take Paul Edlin, and was there one in the room? The lady at the back, wasn't it? No, I'm sorry, I did promise you next. You are first. I did, sorry. Nathan Baroda, if you can all be as quick as you can, and I won't be able to take any more questions. So it's Nathan Baroda, Paul Edlin. Right, thank you. Over to you.
Nathan Baroda, Jewish Labour Movement. Thank you, Madam President, for your condemnation of the Uganda policy. Before, as you say, it's anathema to Jewish values, the policy that's being led by Priti Patel. Okay, thank you. I'll move forward. I think it's anathema to Jewish values, the policy that's been led by Priti Patel. So it's good to see that it was being condemned this morning. One of the roles of the board is advocacy. It says on that. And obviously you mentioned before about the board's history in terms of advocacy to King George III. I think this is obviously a very different example, but if the board has a position, surely it's important that we take that position to the relevant minister, in this case the Home Secretary, and advocate so that she's aware of our position and hopefully reverses this inhumane policy that's just devastating for so many people. It was great to see it was stopped on Monday, but hopefully the board will play an active role in trying to stop the whole policy altogether. Thank you.
I've given you my position, and that is in the same place as you. And very rarely, the board's position is not always aligned with people's positions. So as an organisation, the board isn't going to make any representations to the Home Office. I've given my view in the President's statement because I'm able to do that, but that is not the same as the board's view, and I have said that is my view, and I absolutely urge the government to reassess their position on Rwanda. I think it's of huge concern. I'm in the same place, but the board is not going to be, as an organisation, making representations to government and asking for a meeting with the Home Secretary on it. But my view is in the same place as yours. I'm sorry, I realise that's not satisfactory to you or to anybody actually. Thank you. Please.
Madam President, Rosalind Lewis, Kingston, Surbiton and District Synagogue. It's not a question, it's really an advert. I know you have all heard a much more eloquent presentation on this than I could possibly give, but I am involved with the project of the legacy boards, and they will be rolling out soon. You heard the last presentation in March, but now we're ready to roll. And it's really important that you all do your best to have a legacy board in your own synagogue or organization. We tend to think that how will any generation forget the Shoah? But I've done a little bit of research in the short time I've been involved with this, and I have found that there are Jewish people who didn't know what the Spanish Inquisition was. Now that was as terrible to that generation and that time, and it went on for a few hundred years, as the Shoah is to us. And we may be the last of the generations that can actually say, I remember it, not necessarily that we were there, but we remember it. And we must make sure that future generations remember it. And the only way we can do this is by, if you like, advertising it, having it in all our synagogues and organizations. I will be phoning round and pestering you, but I really, really hope you will take it up and realize how important this project is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well spoken. Thank you. Paul Edlin, who's on Zoom. And I apologise for everybody else. There isn't a chance for more questions. Paul.
Sorry, it's difficult to get unmuted. Paul Edlin, Glasgow Jewish Representative Council. I know you mentioned the European Jewish Congress at the start of your presentation. I would like to ask for some more clarification about what has happened there and the reason for the withdrawal by the Board of Deputies. I understand that the European Jewish Congress are having an inquiry into the matter of the abuse or whatever form that has taken. What I would like to know is why the withdrawal was made before the inquiry completed. And also if you can give us some more clarification about whether the abuse took place by staff or allegedly by staff or by officers of the organization or what. The European Jewish Congress the board were partial founders of that way back, and we've always played an important part. And you yourself, I believe, as a past president's chair of the Council of the European Jewish Congress, obviously, if we have withdrawn, you will not be chairing that. And it's very important that while the Board of Deputies do not really need the European Jewish Congress, the smaller countries of Europe through the European Jewish Congress require the European Jewish Congress to support them in their defense, political defense largely. So my question to you is, can you give us some more details about what happened, when you think you may be able to resume normal relations with the EJC, and how you see this progressing? And also, as a slight supplementary to that, can you explain to us how that organization is now being funded since Moshe Kantor left the organization in the circumstances which were discussed earlier in earlier plenaries? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there's only limited information I can give you. I'm not aware that the European Jewish Congress are carrying out any investigation or that there's any other investigation. I can say that the board made it clear that there should be an investigation. And I'm sure if you look online, there's lots of reporting on what the issues are at the very highest level at the European Jewish Congress. So we hope that they will listen and take note so that relations can be restored. But there are very serious issues which have to be investigated. So we will come back to you as soon as possible. If you want to discuss it offline, please do. In relation, can I just say to the points on refugees that we were talking about before, when we have our next executive meeting, I will again bring up my view just to make it clear. I do personally hear and feel these issues. It's very, very difficult. So I just want to give reassurance on that. Before I close, and again, apologies to people that haven't been able to ask questions, can I just promote very, very important, the BRCA gene. We know how awful this situation can be for anybody that knows anyone that's had breast cancer, the importance of getting tested and living with the gene mutation. This very important event is going to be happening in Edgware United on the 12th of July. If anyone wants to come and get details afterwards, but I would absolutely urge you to look at this and to support this event, because it's something that everybody should know about it here. And as it says, it's very predominant in the Ashkenazi Jewish population, where 1 in 40 people can have this gene. So knowing, understanding is very, very important. So thank you very much, Spencer, for bringing that to my attention. Thank you. That's the close of the President's statement. Does anyone have any comment on the executive report? Thank you. We're now going to move on to the new Deputy Speakers programme. I really enjoyed this last time. It's a real opportunity to hear from new people. And thank you again to Marilyn Keane and Rob Sassoon for coordinating this programme. And when people speak, it is really, really difficult and nerve-wracking. So please, can you give your support? So each person's going to have 3 minutes. You'll need to change the clock or start the clock after 30 seconds if you can't. So the first person in person, we are delighted to ask to speak, Judith Princely. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, President, honorary officers.
Can you put your microphone? Sorry, you'll start again.
Sorry.
The red. Yep, put it near you.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Good afternoon, President, honorary officers and deputies. I'm one of the deputies from Muswell Hill Synagogue. I grew up in South Manchester and my brother-in-law Peter is the deputy for Norwich. We attended South Manchester Synagogue, which consisted of many Austrian and German refugees. My father's family had escaped from Vienna in June 1938 with the help of a Quaker family. My father's family became involved in Jackson's Row Reform Synagogue. At the age of 13, I went to a Quaker school, the Mount in York. The philosophy, both at home and at the Mount, was one of tolerance and acceptance of others and encouragement for taking part in community activity. Professionally, I taught drama and English at a secondary school in Baker, Lancashire, where there was a lot of unemployment. In the 1980s, when the BNP was becoming popular, the head of geography said that as my surname, Curer, K-U-R-E-R, was obviously not English, it would be wise not to mention that I was Jewish. I then taught drama at Fortismere School, a mixed comprehensive school in North London. I subsequently trained to become a PSHE coordinator, which involves personal, social health, and economic education. During the last 3 years of my teaching career, PSHE was taught as part of well-being, which included RE. I was concerned that students' understanding of Jews and Jewish history was fairly limited. Some were aware of the Holocaust. However, many only perceived Jews as Orthodox. And I was asked a few times, "Miss, why are you not wearing a wig?" Again, whilst preparing Year 10 students for Holocaust Memorial Day at Muswell Hill Synagogue, I was surprised that many of the students were unaware that there was a synagogue almost next door to the school. I've also been a staff governor at Fortismere and a parent governor at a primary school. On retiring, I miss working in a diverse community and have subsequently attended the monthly Haringey Multi-Faith Forum meetings run by our own Rabbi David Mason. Since joining the board last June, I became an observer at the CD division. One of Sheila's aims has been to raise the number of SACRA reps, and we've been provided with a series of SACRA conferences. Each of them has been evaluated to monitor and identify our needs. I consider the 12 areas in the CD section of the board plan, once implemented, will deliver tangible outcomes to reduce anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Felix, are you behind? There you are, behind the screen. Thank you so much. If you can put your red microphone on, it's my fault for not saying so before. I've had it quite close. It's the right button. If you have it fairly close to you, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Felix Mara. I am the Deputy for Finchley Reform Synagogue. I'm also a member of council, responsible for our Israel program. We're a large community. We have 3 deputies, 1 under 35 observer. I'd like to thank my colleagues at FRS, especially Robert Stone, for all their help and encouragement. I'd also like to thank Rob Sassoon, my buddy, for his support and also for putting this event together. My approach, or my view, is to represent a broad strategy of members of my community on the board, which is easier said than done. For me, the role of, or shall I say, the style of the board it's about more than being heroic. I think it's about the way we conduct ourselves, the way we speak, our procedures, and how we can use those to achieve our ends it's been a great privilege to be involved, and I support nearly everything in our strategy. It's also been a great learning experience. One thing I've learned, I think, about my own role on the board is that I'm very interested in the process. And that's something I got more insights into at the regional weekend in Manchester. So I'm interested in how we organize ourselves effectively and to be as democratic as we can. And I hope there's going to be a role for me to get more involved in that front in the future. Certainly, I'll take every opportunity to seize the day. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really good also to have an opportunity to get to know you when you're talking. So I think this is a really excellent program, Marilyn and Rob. You've done really well. Karen, you are on Zoom. You've got your hand up. I hope that's just to remind me that you're next. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Hi, thanks very much. So my name's Karen Worth and I'm the Deputy for Nottingham Liberal Synagogue. I became a deputy in this triennium and I'm still figuring out really what my place within the board might be. Yes, this opportunity for being invited to speak, I think, is a great initiative and will help some of us to be more visible and gain confidence. This is my first time speaking here. In the past, I used to feel that the board had really very little to do with me and didn't represent my views. But over the years, I've been very pleased to see that change has occurred with a more pluralistic outlook and much more effort to ensure better representation of diverse groups and differing views, and paying attention to varied issues. I do think that there remains a lot more to be done on this, particularly to ensure that younger people and women are heard and represented more. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I work as a GP and a clinical associate professor at Nottingham Medical School. And I also have a special interest in working with people who use drugs and alcohol. I was brought up in London and I'm the daughter of a German survivor who came to the UK on the Kinder transport and an Irish Jew from Dublin. I came to Nottingham to go to medical school and I never left. I love Nottingham and I think it's a great place to live and to be a Jew, but we have specific challenges and benefits in common with other small communities. Nottingham Liberal Synagogue is a smallish community with about 200 adults plus children and young people. We are very active despite our small size and have over the past few years developed a high profile in the city of Nottingham following the work of our previous Rabbi Tanya Saknovich. We have worked with Nottingham citizens over many years to build alliances with other faith and non-faith groups and have worked together on several projects. One such project is the Salam Shalom Kitchen, of which I am very proud to be the co-chair. We are a joint Muslim Jewish-led project which aims to reduce food poverty and social isolation in a deprived inner city area of Nottingham, and we've been operating for the past 7 years. We run a community cafe serving over 150 meals once a week, made almost entirely from supermarket surplus waste food, and give out groceries and fresh food and veg to people in need. We have a volunteer base of over 70 people. I think that Sash Kitchen embodies the best of what is Jewish, working with others across perceived barriers and divides and to help others and make a difference in the world. Through this project, I've made a lot of Muslim friends and it's been key to breaking down stereotypes and barriers between our communities. If anyone wants to know more about the work we do or how to become a donor or for tips of how to set up and run a project like this, I'd be delighted to be contacted or check out our website. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you. Thank you. And next, at the back of the room, hello, you're very welcome. We have Simon Gordon. If you can also press the microphone on the right. Thank you very much.
Good morning, fellow deputies. I'm Simon Gordon and I'm a new deputy from Radlett Reform. My family have been members of the Reform movement for many years, and I've been involved in various roles over many years, initially as security and for 10 years up until COVID as a warden. Having given something to my community, I decided I wanted to give something to the overall Jewish community and volunteered to be a warden. Over the years, many things have influenced me, and I'll now try and deal with some of them because those will relate to how I want to act within the board. My wife and I love to travel, and we've visited many countries over many years, often visiting local synagogues. Last weekend, we were in Florence, and on Shabbat, we walked past the synagogue. I wish someone standing outside Shabbat Shalom. Chabad were one short of a million. And so I made the 10th. It was a mitzvah. When we were in Singapore, I went to Shul, which is Sephardi. During the Torah service, they called for a Kohen, and I put my hand up. Rabbi, we have a Kohen, and I was called up. When I was at the hotel, I walked past the Haredi, who asked me to lay tefillin, which I did. When he realized I was a Kohen, he knelt down in the middle of the hotel, took off his hat and asked me to bless him. No one asked me what sort of Jew I was just Jewish. As Jewish, we need to work together, whatever denomination we are. To the outside world, we're all just Jews. Yes, we have doctrinal differences, but we are all Jews, and we should respect our differences and work together to bridge the gap. It's amazing what a little tolerance can do. 1,564 scrolls came to Westminster Synagogue after the Second World War, and the Czech Scroll Trust has loaned them throughout the world. Your synagogues may have them. Radlett now has 2, and having volunteered to help research the history of the community, I became the committee and reached the history of the second scroll. Those scrolls are all that is left of the once thriving communities in Bohemia and Moravia. Preserving the scrolls so that they can be used in our communities honors those who are no longer with us. The Nazis, again, did not distinguish between Orthodox Jews or any sort of Jew. They were just loaded onto transports and sent to be exterminated. Some of you may know my late uncle, Joseph Pearl, who was a Holocaust survivor. Uncle Joe will be remembered by many as one of those who went into schools for over 20 years to talk to children. He helped an immense number of children and was awarded the BEM for his service to Holocaust education. As with the Czech scrolls, we must ensure the Holocaust is remembered, and we challenge those that deny that the Holocaust happened. Finally, I've been a supporter of Israel all my life and visited on many occasions, the first in 1974, and was due to return last year. The amount of misinformation and disinformation about Israel's actions needs to be challenged. The attitudes of certain political parties and institutions also need to be challenged. Our is the most anti-Israel country in Europe, and Trocaire is a state-funded anti-Israel charity. Sinn Féin's attitude is similar. Amnesty International focuses on Israel, as done the UNHCR. Israel is the only Middle Eastern democracy. Our Arab citizens have votes on participating government. Where are the arguments with Iran, Egypt, Venezuela, Uganda, Hong Kong,
I am
China?
really sorry you've gone over the clock. I'm
That's
really
all right.
sorry. But I tell you what, I really enjoyed. Thank you. Let's give it a round of applause. I really enjoyed listening. When we run out of new speakers, I'd really like to come back for everybody to talk. I'm actually really enjoying hearing about people and what they think. I think it's actually really special. But thank you, everybody today that took part. That was amazing. Thank you. We're now going to go on to the divisional reports, and first up is Senior Vice President David Mendoza-Wolfson, and I know he's going to tell you all about Edwin's article. Edwin will also tell you as well about condemning Iraq. Over to you, David.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marie. Is that okay? Can people hear me through the mic there? Good. Before I get to Iraq, I just want to really to start, if you don't mind, Marie, with me adding one more muzzle top, which is to a deputy of Edgware and Hendon Reform Synagogue, Melissa Mendoza-Wolfson. Congratulations on your wedding 3 weeks ago today. It's her first in-person plenary too, so there we are. Sarah, on Iraq, you're absolutely right. I think we haven't been public enough on this issue. Edwin wrote a fantastic article in the Jewish News, which went out in the deputy's information email. This obviously is not enough, and it's not where we're going to be finishing. I actually spoke with Edwin about this the other day. We, in the international division, will be writing to the government about it. It's absolutely fundamental that legislation that effectively illegalizes Judaism does not become the norm in the region. And when we have such fantastic things as the Abraham Accords, it's vital that we don't have, on one hand, countries normalizing ties with Israel, and on the other, countries punishing Jews with death for effectively just being Jewish. So thank you very much for raising it. And this is something that we are going to do more work on. I just touched on the Abraham Accords. We've been doing some great work there. We have really good communication with the UAE, the Bahraini embassies, and I was fortunate to meet with a new Moroccan ambassador just a couple of weeks ago. We will be having an Abraham Accords reception, a diplomatic reception shortly. I'm thrilled to say that the members of the international division will all be invited, and I know that they'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to having all the guests there that we can. We're also going to look to run some type of delegation to Bahrain and the UAE early next year. And that would be a really exciting opportunity to show that the British Jewish community really sees this as the path to peace in the Middle East. Speaking of trips, we're also planning that Israel trip that obviously we had spoken about previously quite a lot last year. It's now with the international division. Michael is helping to plan it, and we're hoping to hold that event that trip in October next year after the High Holy Days. I've spoken before about wanting for the Board of Deputies to apply for special consultative status with the UN. I'm thrilled to say that that application has gone in. Unfortunately, the UN, as many of you will know, is not the quickest body in the world. So hopefully we'll know in the next year or so whether or not we've been successful there. But I would actually specifically like to thank the staff team for helping put together all the information for that application. That the UN don't go light when they ask for info, and we had to get stuff from all across the board. And also thank you, Ben, for your assistance with that. Also. The EJC has come up today, and all I want to add on to that is that for us, we need to make sure that just because we've suspended our membership with the EJC, that doesn't in any way damage our relationships with our sister organizations, our sister communities around Europe. So we're going to be doing more and more work to engage with those communities to make sure that we can do what we can to raise them up and to support them where possible and in any ways that we can. And finally, I will be meeting with the German Deputy Ambassador shortly. Well, not shortly as in today, but shortly as in soon. It was supposed to be last week, but unfortunately, due to COVID, the meeting had to be moved to discuss our formal twinning project. This is going to be a project, again, that I've spoken about before. 1 second, sorry, I can't read that. Just type it over and I'll be sure to say it. This twinning project to formally create twinning arrangements between British synagogues and international shuls also. I think it's really, really vital that we don't just spend our time talking about anti-Semitism. We need to be celebrating our cultural heritages also. And I'm thrilled that the German government have agreed to help support us in a pilot program that I'm hoping that we'll be able to be successful there, cross-denominational, of course, and then hopefully extend it further afield. And with that,
right, the questions that we are going to have are online at the moment.
You're not on.
The questions are going to be from Paul Hart and David Sapir.
You want to say that?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Great, questions from, we'll start with Paul and I'll come to Joe in the room if that's okay. Paul?
Paul, I think you've just remuted yourself.
Sorry about that, guys. Paul Hart to Mosaic Liberal Synagogue. Do you have any further news about the amalgamation between our Foreign Media Bias Watch and Defence Division's Bias Watch?
Sorry, do you mind just asking that question one more time. I'm not sure that I heard it quite clearly.
Okay, I've been told that our foreign media bias watch will be amalgamating with the Defence Division's bias watch. Is there any further news on what's happening with that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. We're working on it, and I'll be working with Lawrence and with Ido to make sure that we're able to do it in a way that makes sure that we can usefully combine the two divisions. We don't want to replicate any work, but we also need to make sure that nothing gets lost. And as soon as that is ready and sorted, I will let you know. But again, once it is out there, this is going to be something for all deputies to be able to engage in. When you see anti-Semitism either in the British press or international press, in whatever language papers you might read, for you to be able to let us know about it, to see what we can do to help there. So thank you very much, Paul. Joe, I think you had your hand up before in the room.
Thank you, David. Joe Millis, Bromley Reform Synagogue. First, congratulations. Thank you very much to the board leadership for our very own version of Brexit from the EJC. I think that's on a very, very important and principled stand that's been taken here. So thank you very, very much. My other question is a question. Your report refers to a lot of meetings that you have regarding promoting Israel, etc., etc., etc. I'm just wondering, when you promote Israel to the people you meet, do you take into consideration that there is a plethora of views here in this room from people like me, who I'm not afraid to say are of the left, or even extreme left, to people who are Likudniks, Harutniks, and I think there are probably a couple of Kahanists here, and that there is really no, okay, maybe not Kahanists, but people who, yeah, all right. That people who feel that maybe the board isn't strong enough on Israel. So when you do, as I say, do you actually say that there is no consensus in the board on Israel? And how could we know if there is? I mean, that's basically it, mate.
So I think that what's really important here is what we're talking about is support for the state of Israel, which is something that I think that every person in this room does and has. This isn't about saying, have you looked at this recent piece of Israeli government legislation? Don't you think it's great? That's absolutely not what we're here for. If the Israeli embassy want to do that, we're obviously more than happy for the Israeli embassy to do that. We're not the Israeli embassy. We don't speak for them. But what does very much matter to us is making sure that people are fighting anti-Israel bias at intergovernmental organizations, that we don't have statements that are frankly so biased that they move into anti-Semitism, that, you know, we look at these findings. Take the Iraq instance. The word used in this legislation is Zionists. What do they mean? How is that defined? Now, in saying, well, what is a Zionist? These people are going to be including anyone in this room, Joe. And so I think that all of these things, when we say about support for Israel, what we mean is just that, and not in any way saying government that, you know, the Israeli government believes this, the Israeli opposition believes this. We've got one board member who supports this party, so maybe I should tell you what they believe. That's not what we do. What we do is what we can to make sure that there is peace, that Israel is accepted as a legitimate state, which is exactly what it is. So thank you very much. And I'm told we have a question that is the last question, unfortunately, from David Safir coming in from online.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I trust you can hear me.
We can.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the EJC, three very brief questions, which, David, I hope you or the President will be able to help us. The first is, has any other EJC affiliate, in other words, other than the Board of Deputies, taken similar action with regard to stepping back, not being involved, and so on? Secondly, really, well, same question, has the World Jewish Congress taken particular action or stated its position about the ongoing, shall we say, issue and problems at the EJC? But my second question is, Given that you, I believe, President, were chair of the EJC's council, or effectively its executive, was it actually impossible for you to avoid standing down from that when the board itself pulled out of the EJC? Because clearly you no longer have the immediate, shall we say, involvement with the other members of that. And my last question really relates to what, David, I think you've already said. Fortunately, you're doing much more of, and I know the ID is doing more of, in terms of re-engaging or deepening engagement with other communities on a bilateral basis, especially those in Europe. Can I just say that in doing that, can you not forget to make direct contact with the Isle of Man, Cyprus, and Malta, all of which, of course, are European territories with small communities that may need to be particularly further supported, given what has happened in terms of the EJC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I think that lots of that is probably mostly question for Marie. So if you don't mind, I am going to just hand over to Marie to answer those questions.
Thank you. Obviously, it was a very serious situation which led to suspending activities with the European Jewish Congress. The decision by the EJC not to investigate these very serious allegations against an office holder were taken by their president and their executive. So they will have to hopefully reconsider their position and conduct an investigation. But until that happens, we can't assume normal business with those communities. Can we please remember that we are, however, a part of the World Jewish Congress. So we meet all communities through that basis, and we have an excellent working relationship with them. And allegations were made over a year ago to the World Jewish Congress, and this individual left that organization. It's widely written about in the media, so it's not something that I can repeat here. I am the chair of the Council of the European Jewish Congress, and the allegations that were raised obviously were extremely serious. We are all people of principle and have the highest standards in the UK. We don't just say it, we actually mean it, and there are some things that have to be investigated. So we all hope for a good resolution, but we will be having contact with all the communities worldwide through the World Jewish Congress, who are fully aware of the position. And one thing that I do want to just make clear, we do not have any Kahanis in the Board of Deputies. I think it's very important that I actually say that, because that could be taken out of context. Could I also apologise? I should have given condolences to Leonard Bazar, whose sister unfortunately passed away. And also, David mentioned to you, deputies, that we are going to have a mission to Israel. We want to try and organise that for next year. Could I just do something a bit radical? It's not a vote, but could I just have a show of hands of any deputy that thinks they might be interested if we can have a reasonable price? Oh, goodness, it's everybody. Right, and online. Can someone have a look?
I'm looking.
Right, how many people would be interested? We can arrange a fantastic trip to, all right, okay,
There's
so.
loads of hands online as well.
Okay. Okay, right. So we're doing the right thing. Okay, that's really good. In that case, we're going to make sure this is a big job, because I thought it's important that we see how much support, because this was a manifesto pledge, and it's yes, it was a manifesto pledge in my election campaign, but it's a really big undertaking, and I really want to make sure that people want to come. We've been away to Gibraltar. It was a great success, a very busy weekend that was, but this will be different. This will be fantastic. Right, David, you've got a very, very big job. Thank you, everybody. We're going to try and bring it in as cost effectively as we can. Next, online to give their report, Edwin Shuker is on Zoom. Over to you, Edwin.
Thank you, Marie. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, first of all, Susan, for raising the Iraq issue, and David for commenting on it. This cannot stay on the books of civilized country the actual license to kill any Iraqi inside Iraq or outside Iraq who even connects through social networks with any Zionist, not even a national of Israel, but any Zionist or any Masonic. This is on top of a pure anti-Semitic law, which is the nationality law of 2006, which exclude only the Jew from the nationality law, only the Jew out of all the world's different religions and creeds. And already the law, because of the lack of reaction globally, the law now has been copied by the Houthis in Yemen, and Algeria is considering copying this law of criminalizing contacts with Israel. The second thing is I thank Deputy Lawrence Julius for highlighting that on Tuesday, as part of Refugee Week, I will be talking together in Mill Hill United at 8 p.m. It's a real physical event and no Zoom. So please try and make it there. You will hear more about Iraq, the Jewish Arab refugees, and also the other refugees, Jewish refugees from non-Arab countries. You will hear a lot more, and it will be a worthwhile event. I want to also congratulate Judith Princely for joining the division. She won the election. I want to congratulate Rosalind Lewis for us headhunting and co-opting her, and her first job, as you saw, is the board deputies legacy board. And I want to also headhunted Avi Garzon from last time's meeting where he put his maiden speech. So these all this works beautifully together with my very able vice chair Andrew Gilbert, and also, of course, Sheila, my partner from last triennial at our HO. Together, what we want to do is to come up with not one chair who will report to you, but 12 chairs. Each one of these people who are running this subdivision groups, working groups, will be responsible for delivering the tasks to you, plenary. And you see from the reporting, it's getting there. I need another 2 meetings to get it right. And then you will not see Edwin Sugar in the report at all. And that will be my dream. I present the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Janet Tresman, please ask your question. Thank you.
Wow, sorry about the delay. Unlike me, not to be able to speak. Janet Tresman, Finchley Progressive Synagogue. I read with interest that you set up a working group, a working committee headed by Lee Dawkin on the racial inclusivity report. My synagogue set up a racial inclusivity group almost synonymously with the report, before the report reported, the commission reported. We want to know, has the questionnaire gone out to deputies yet? If not, when? Thank you.
Well, as you know, this was a core subject for my in my manifesto. The work in earnest has started recently, the last month, by the return to the board of Anthony Silkoff, who was very almost embedded in the report, and who have prepared a huge action plan, blueprint of what needs to be done. We are now combining this with the division's aspiration, and we're starting really literally almost tomorrow with the consultations and for implementing. And tomorrow we're having a meeting at Lauderdale under Rabbi Joseph Dweck's guidance, and the ball will start. We are going to meet all the stakeholders over the next 3 to 6 months, and to come up with an implementation plan for informal and formal education. I know some of the recommendation will not be my department, my division, but mine will be the formal and informal. And the invitation is already there, Janet. Just get in touch with Lee, who asked for people to help him, and just write to him, and you'll be included.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got a question from the back of the room. Ruth Hart, please give your question.
Okay.
Right hand side.
Can you hear now?
Yes, speak closely to it, please.
I expect you all read the report in the Jewish Chronicle about the Jewish Deaf Association and this Shabbat. What I wanted to ask you concerning social justice and disabilities is, will there be a similar project for those in the community with physical or disabilities to match the one which would include and promote access for, as there is for those with intellectual disabilities?
Right. I promised when last time this was asked that until we start implementing the commission we already started on the inclusivity, we will not announce any other commission, and because what we don't want to be accused of is setting up commissions and then shelving the recommendations. And now that I hope to have an answer for you within the next, either the next board meeting or the one after that, as to what commission we will be recommending.
Thank you. And one more question that we got from the room, Joe Millis.
Not so much a question, but clarification of what I just said before. Read Kahanists. I very much appreciate that that was a problematic statement. I think perhaps it was over the top. No, it was over the top and wrong. I'm very pleased that the board has taken action against people who have expressed views that are extremely right-wing, on the extreme right, and I'm quite happy at this stage to withdraw the statement. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very appreciated. That was a very very needed. Good. Thank you for that. Thank you, Edwin, for your report. Just before we do that, Edwin, of course, reminded me about elections, and it was very remiss of me not to congratulate our successful candidates. So afterwards, we can give a big hand. So we have Judith Princely was elected on the Communities and Education Division, Kim Cohen and Denise Lester on the Defence Division, and Martin Raven on the International Division. So a quick clap for everybody. Thank you. And again, my apologies, I should have done that in the President's statement. Thank you. Ben, over to you.
Yes, hi everyone, good afternoon. It's lovely to see again so many people here, so many people on the Zoom. Deputies have my report. I just want to highlight a few points. But before I do that, just to do one other piece of business. As deputies know, I'm the deputy for Bevis Marks, the oldest synagogue in the UK, the longest continuously used synagogue probably anywhere in the world. As people are aware, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been dealing endlessly with a number of planning applications of very large buildings, which would have a huge detriment on sort of the aesthetic and experience and the context of the shul. One of them was defeated and rejected at the planning committee late last year. The other one, which was still rumbling on, has now been withdrawn. So for the moment, for the first time in 4 or 5 years, we are sort of in the clear for the moment. I really appreciate all the help that deputies have given, sort of in support of this, in writing, supporting campaigns and sharing articles, lobbying, even some donating money to fund the appeals and so forth. It's hugely appreciated. We do expect that at least one and maybe both of these will come back in some modified form. We are keeping people alert. We are looking at different options of how to prevent this going forwards. But we, just to get this far and be sort of free of these two in an area where usually buildings get approved without much of an issue is really a huge achievement, and thanks to everyone for the help. Just moving on to my report, just a few things to flag. First of all, the community contribution continues to be healthy, continues to be a little bit above budget. My thanks and appreciation of all of us to the deputies who continue to advocate for the board, to promote our work, to encourage their communities to to donate. It's not just the primary source of our income, but it's also a huge demonstration of our representative nature, that we are sort of funded. The majority of our funding comes through in 20, 30, £35 donations from tens of thousands of sort of individual Jews in this country. As flagged in my report, broadly speaking, with a couple of one-off items, we are sort of running where we expect to be. Obviously, we no longer have the money from the EJC. That's out of the budget. Apart from that, everything else we expect to come in has come in. Likewise on costs, there's some timing. Some things have moved backwards and forwards, but broadly speaking, we are where we expect to be. We've had one-off costs, in particular for the Ofcom issues, which people know about in relation to our complaint about the BBC's conduct in relation to Oxford Street. That's sort of ongoing, but the costs have stopped for the moment. As flagged in my report just a couple of weeks ago, we've had through sort of an interim payment for a very generous legacy from sort of a long-time board supporter, Dr. Peter Marks, who sadly passed away in 2020. We really appreciate this gift. It will be we're putting it towards long-term projects and long-term work that we do, but we're looking to do something short-term, sort of visible and meaningful and impactful to acknowledge sort of this gift. At the moment, we've had in £160,000. We hope that it's an interim payment. We hope that there'll be more coming in at the end of the estate. It's really a phenomenal gesture and sort of hugely appreciated, and will really help us to to advance our work going forwards in a number of different respects. Second of all, a big thank you to Judith, to Felix, to Karen, and to Simon. Yes, who's moved to a different seat for the speeches today. It was really great to hear from new voices and some fresh perspectives, alongside obviously the more experienced and familiar voices we often hear from in plenaries. And my thanks likewise to Rob and to Marilyn for coordinating this programme. We have, I think, enough demand to do one more batch of these at our next meeting, and we'll send out an email in the next couple of weeks to see if there's interest in doing more of them. But it's really appreciated. It's really lovely to hear from you all, and I can speak not just myself, but for all the officers and for the room as a whole. Very quickly on fundraising, as deputies know, we have a new fundraising committee which has been chaired by Michael Ziff, which continues to sort of advance and pull work together. Anyone else who is available, who's interested in being part of this and helping us to raise some money going forwards, in particular against some of the uncertainties in our funding pipeline and some of the extra things we would like to do. Should be in touch with me, should be in touch with Michael. There's a lot to do on that side of things. Finally, obviously, we're in a new venue today. This is our third hybrid meeting with both in-person and online components. This is our third venue. Thank you everyone who filled and completed the survey we sent around last week. We've used to tweak some of the bits and pieces and some logistics of the setup. In particular, you'll see more of the gallery view at various points. People in the room can see some more of the people online. Obviously, we balance that with, there we are, perfect. We balance that with the need to see us and the need to see the clock and so forth. If anyone has any comments specifically on this venue, come and let me know afterwards. You don't need to do it in questions with everyone. We will be back here for the next meeting in July. It will be a morning meeting, just to remind everyone one more time. It will start, I believe, at 10:30, and we look forward to seeing you there. I'm very happy to take questions. I see there are a few online, and there's a couple in the room. So let me take Marilyn. Let me do one online, one in the room. So Marilyn, yes, yeah. We'll do one on one. We'll work it out. Let's start off, Marilyn. If you unmute, we'll go from there.
Hi Ben, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your kind words, and congratulations to the 4 new deputies. And of course, as Ben said, if there's anybody else who would like to make their maiden speech in the future, please contact Rob or myself. My question is, I'm delighted to hear there's going to be an Israeli trip, we hope next year. As the F&O does get involved in the regional weekend, does that mean it's going to supersede the regional weekend? Thank you.
Other deputies and so forth. The regional weekend is not going anywhere. In fact, as I think deputies know, I'd like to do more. I think we're provisionally looking at the Israel trip at next October, so that wouldn't impact a regional weekend in sort of March or May. Budget wise, we will have to obviously have a discussion about it in due course. But also, I'm confident that especially if we can get a reasonable price for both events, we can run both. That shouldn't be a particular issue. I should just clarify, I did mention obviously the EJC money is not in our budget. That is just that deputies can keep it clear in their minds. That is for the previous issue we had with the EJC due to the sanctioning of their former chair, as opposed to the more recent issue we had with the EJC due to the safeguarding issue. Yes, sorry, Rose, go for it. Yeah.
Ruth Friedman, Pinner United Synagogue. I just wanted to mention about the survey. This is my first meeting in person for 2 and a bit years, so I did not fill in my survey because I thought I need to see what it's like in person and what it's like as a hybrid meeting. Are you going to send it out again to get some more views on this?
I'm happy to reflow it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I know there was another hand in the online before. Yeah, Dory, and then we'll do Jerry, and then Susan, then Bruce. Dory, go for it.
Thank you. Well, I have to allow to be unmuted by you guys. Anyway, this is again Dory Schmetterling, New West End Synagogue, Bayswater, London. First of all, could I request Ben and others, when you refer to people, just to give their surnames as well? Marilyn who? I mean, this Marilyn I know because you were just speaking, but I mean, if you speak about people, please mention their surnames. I don't know all 250 people, unfortunately. Anyway, the question is regarding your report on operations. There's a reference to negotiations of the preferred site, but there's no mention of a permanent site that's acquired using the capital we have to buy premises, as I thought was said more or less at the time of the sale of the previous premises. And we've just been spending money on rents all this time. So what's the plan, please?
Yeah, sure. I think it's fair to say we're looking at all options, including renting and buying and so forth. I obviously wasn't treasurer at the point of the sale of the building, which was some years ago. The money obviously has been invested and is sort of accruing sort of income and growing and capital growth as well. So I think if we were looking at actually buying a place, it would be both a judgment on the the benefits of having a building, but also we would lose sort of the investment income and the investment growth we currently have. So if an attractive site, a floor of a building, whatever, came to came to light, we were interested in acquiring it permanently. So that's something we're considering. It's not top of our list right now, but we're keeping an open mind and would look at that obviously in the context both of the benefit of the building and also the impact it would have on our investment portfolio. Jerry.
Thanks. Can I just say, I'm been cut off yet, have I? No. Okay.
Yeah,
thank
sorry,
you.
I can hear you, but very briefly.
Yes, of course. It's just a follow-up. Thank you very much. There was a very strong undertaking to buy premises in the previous situation. There was a lot of unhappiness at not, having to rent longer term. And I think a change of committee chair or composition doesn't necessarily negate that. And of course, property values themselves don't go down. And if they do go down, they don't go down for very long.
Dara, I'm really sorry to disappoint people, but unfortunately, property prices do go down. I mean, I'm not, we have to look at this in the round of both our investments and our, and our building commitments. We're looking at all options, but we have to look at what's the best for the charity at this point. You know, as you said, if we rent somewhere, we pay rent, we pay a service charge. There are costs there. Equally, if we were to buy a place, we would take on, you know, costs of our own responsibility for maintenance, and we would lose the investment income that we had. So we will make a decision which is compatible with the best interests of the charity. I feel that, you know, just to remind deputies more generally, you know, as a matter of course, we are a small organisation in terms of number of employees we have. We have sort of 15 full and part-time staff. We need space for divisional meetings of 16 deputies and a few other people. So we're not talking, you know, unless we're contemplating, which we're not, buying a building to hold plenary meetings in. We are really looking at a modest amount of office space, then the difference between taking something like that on a reasonably long-term lease on favourable terms and buying something to have, you know, more permanently is sort of something we'll consider. But, you know, certainly I don't feel that there are any binding commitments from what's been done before. Yeah.
Jerry Lewis, Hampstead Synagogue. First of all, can I congratulate those involved in the new deputy speeches programme? It's a marvellous initiative to let others have a chance to have a say. Speaking as the father of the board, having been here since 1976, I do not request an old deputies session. Some of us speak too much in any case. Can I ask you something which is a bit more drilling into your division? First of all, I noticed that half an hour has been shaved off this meeting. I'd like to know why. Is it part of the terms of using this building, or the meetings are becoming shorter and shorter? I hope that's not going to be a precedent, because the longer the meetings, the more time there is, less opportunity for the president to turn around and say, we haven't got time to take any further questions. Second aspect of that, I'd like to know what's happening with budgets. Now, in all my years on the board, I've never seen divisional budgets ever published by the F&O. You're a new treasurer. This is an opportunity to do something different. I'd like to see divisional budgets available to us, especially on those of us serving on a division, so we know what the issues and amounts available are. That should include staffing costs as well. But another aspect of that, who decides the priorities of a division? Yes, we have a board plan, we have a divisional plan, but does the F&O take a decision on the priorities of a division? And if a division comes up, and this is very important, if division comes up with a request for funding for a specific project, how do we go about it? Do you give it separate consideration? Has it got to be within the budget, or can you give separate funds for it? These are questions which we've never actually had asked, and I think we need to drill down on them just to find out the extent and involvement of the F&O in how a division can do its job. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry, I appreciate the question. As you said, you've been a deputy since 1976, and the board in all that time has never produced divisional level budgets, because that's not the way we account for or spend our money. So I'm not really, you've been an HO, you've been on the executive, you've been on the F&O, you're familiar with all these things. I am not minded at this stage to totally rewrite the way we do budgeting. I think we budget based on costs, we budget based on projects, we budget in alignment with the board plan, you know, a document which goes through all divisions. We set priorities, you know, based on the priorities of divisions as conveyed through the HOs. We spend what we bring in. We run small deficits, drawing down some of our some of our investment portfolio, but we aim to break even in the long term between our investments and our income. So necessarily we can't do everything that we'd like to. And yeah, as the meetings themselves, I think the last couple of meetings we have run short, so we cut a little bit short this time. If we run over, we will, you know, sort of go back to slightly longer meeting. There was another question online I think Susan online. Let me take the two questions. And yeah,
I'm really sorry, everyone. I've got to balance between Ben taking more questions and Amanda not being able to give her report, and I really feel that Amanda has to be given a chance to do her report. So no disrespect.
Susan Bruce, if you email me, I will
We'll
follow up
take
with
them
you
offline.
afterwards.
No
Yeah.
disrespect, but I really want Amanda to give her report. It's only fair. Amanda.
Thank you. Good afternoon, deputies. I'm conscious of the fact that I can speak really, really fast, or we might run 5 minutes or so late. And I hope you'll forgive me if I don't speak over fast, because the Defence Division's and work is sort of core and the engine room of the board's work. There are two main things I want to highlight for you today. Firstly, I want to pick up the questions we've had this morning about our work with the CPS. I can confirm that we will be organising meetings between local CPS hate crime leads and Jewish representatives around the country, and that we got this assurance from Lionel Eden at the meeting that Marie and the professional team attended last week. And in those meetings and discussions, we will of course be discussing the CPS interpretation of their definition of public interest. And for clarity, I know this came up earlier, the police investigate and obtain evidence to show that a crime has been committed. The CPS is then responsible for deciding which cases go to court. This includes taking a decision on whether there's enough evidence to prosecute a crime as a hate crime. And that means gathering evidence that the victim has either been targeted or the offender believes that the offence has taken place because of their race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and or transgender identity. The CPS have to balance factors for and against prosecution, and a prosecution will usually take place unless there are public interest factors tending against prosecution, which clearly outweigh those tending in favour. And when I say that we need to influence their take on this, that means that we will be working with each of those hate crime leads to make sure they understand the perspectives from our side, and equally to give examples from a local context. Secondly, I want to pick up the work we're doing to support the progress of the government's BDS bill. Of course, legitimate criticism of the policies and actions of Israel, or indeed any other state, has a place in public discourse. However, deputies will be aware that local government representatives can sometimes use rhetoric that leads to toxic debate that subjects Israel to discriminatory or disproportionate criticism that is more than unsettling to our community. In May, we hosted a roundtable with the Abraham Initiatives that brought together councillors from Newham, Barnet, Brent, Bury, and Redbridge that shared experience about community cohesion and support for all minorities, with councillors from Haifa and Lod who came over from Israel. Those attending were keen to keep sharing experience in this way, and we're discussing how this pilot exercise with the Abraham Initiatives can continue and how we can cascade this more widely across the United Kingdom. You've all seen my report and I'm happy to take questions. I can see that there's a question from Paul Hart and from James Harris in the room. Paul, if you'd like to go first.
Hi, Amanda. Paul Hart, Liberal, Mosaic Liberal Synagogue. My question is the same as the last one I asked on the last plenary about a meeting between Priti Patel and the police commissioner with regards to the policing of the Haredi community in Stamford Hill. I really feel that the police need re-educating about the work they do in that area.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And James, I'll take your question at the same time.
Thanks, Amanda. As always, thanks for the work that the division does, and thank you for your report. Just on sort of a point that quite a few deputies have made throughout this meeting on Rwanda, not specifically related to the policy, but there's clearly demand to talk about the policy, including from the president. There doesn't seem to be the demand, however, to do something. Will you consider arranging a meeting with the Home Office or with the Home Secretary? I know one hasn't been organised so far, but clearly there's, again, demand to talk about it. Yeah, will you organise or aim to organise a meeting to talk specifically about the policy with the Home Secretary?
Thanks, James. And Denise, I can see online, Denise Lester has a question. I'll take all the questions and then respond to them all. Denise. Denise, you're still
Thank
on
you.
mute.
Thank you, Denise Lester, Southampton Synagogue. Thank you, Amanda. I pose this question not only to you, but of course, actually to all the honorary officers, including Madam President, with regard to meetings with the Home Secretary. Isn't it the case that there should be a nuanced and proportionate approach in relation to requests for meetings? I say this against the context of, if you like, the President's sentiments on a personal level with regard to the Rwanda situation, which I understand, but looking at the overarching realpolitik and the overarching issues which concern us as a community, and including the Defence Division specific brief in relation to combating anti-Semitism, and with reference to your comments on the CPS. So what I'm saying is that, you know, we have to pick our issues surely with the governments, and particularly with the Home Secretary, who has a incredibly busy agenda. And I appreciate that my stance is actually well-meaning and intention for the benefit of the whole community, despite the different views. And I've alluded to my own view, but we have to look at the community as a whole, and anti-Semitism does feature as a priority, as well as safeguarding and other issues. Thank you.
Thanks. Paul and Amos, and then I'm going to call a halt. I'm going to answer, and I'm going to ask Marie to pick up the questions about the Home Secretary. Paul Edlin and then Amos Schonfeld.
Yeah, I must agree with what Paul Edlin, Glasgow Jewish Representative Council, I must agree with what Denise Lester's just said. And the President has also said the same thing, which is a statesman's-like attitude to the Jewish community in dealing with this. We all find many things that government does abhorrent, but anti-Semitism is our priority as a Jewish community. And the matter of where the refugees or political asylum seekers, etc., are placed in the Rwanda situation is not one that we primarily as a Jewish representative organization should be going at odds with the government about, because by doing that, we could jeopardize making points over anti-Semitism, which to us as a Jewish community is much more important. And I stand by the President's view and by Denise's view, and I feel that sometimes we have to not just go by gut feelings, but by making statesman-like decisions, and I would commend that.
Thank you, Paul. Amos Schonfeld.
Thank you, Amos Schonfeld, Deputy for Masorti Judaism. I just want to completely reject this zero-sum game that either we talk to the Home Office about refugees or we talk to the Home Office about anti-Semitism. These are both incredibly important issues. And I think it comes to a deeper problem that I'm struggling with right now, and I've been a deputy for 7 years. We have a president, we have the board's manifesto, and we have the Social Justice Committee and many other deputies all standing on one side of an issue, which is that forcibly deporting asylum seekers is wrong, morally reprehensible, and against our Jewish values. You know, there's a beautiful quote from the CEO of HIAS, the oldest refugee organization in the world, which is a Jewish organization. Doesn't matter though, does it? He said, we used to help refugees because they are Jewish. Today we help refugees because we are Jewish. This is a really important issue. And if we can't stand up for forcibly deporting asylum seekers, when we've been doing so for the past several years, it's in all of our documentation. I don't know how this policy got created. On what grounds, this is my actual question here, on what grounds have we created a policy of neutrality on deportation? Because I don't understand how this policy got formulated, given that the President, the board's manifesto, and the Social Justice Committee are all in alignment. Is there some other body or some other entity that makes this decision? And let's move beyond this strange zero-sum game that we've created for ourselves on how we have meetings or what we have meetings on. Thank you.
Thank you, Amos. I'm going to answer the other questions first. And so there was a question from Paul about the need to educate the police around what hate crime looks like, in particular around Stamford Hill. And I think you heard, Paul, when Andrew Gilbert asked his question earlier in the meeting, that there is something established that's called the Metropolitan Police London Jewish Community Forum, which is a great place where we are able to talk to the police and highlight issues. There are also a series of WhatsApp groups where we have direct contact with local police in boroughs where there's a large Jewish community, where specific areas of Jewish concern are highlighted. And the work of the London Jewish Forum, working at local authority, by local authority level, is engaging on these issues on a regular basis. So we're doing our part in terms of educating the police. Of course, there's always more that we can do, and we will continue to work on that. The other questions, I think, were all relatively vocal around our nationalities and borders bill response, and more recently our response to Rwanda, and whether or not we'll be asking for a meeting with the Home Secretary. I will hand over to the President to talk to that, but I would refer deputies back to the statements that we've made over the last 9 or so months that have been very clear about our position and our policy on this.
Thank you. I think it's a very, very important discussion that we've had today. I'm somebody who lives by my values. I believe they're Jewish values, and I believe that Rwanda and those issues are extremely important to the Jewish community. We have a history of being refugees. We are very sensitive to this situation. Of course, we are all very grateful to the Conservative government. They've been very good to the Jewish community in recent years, and they have been a friend to Israel. But this, in my view, is an unconscionable policy to send refugees to such a place. And it bothers many people also, I think, in the Conservative Party. It's also an example of democracy. People say the president's autocratic, the president can do what they like, but it's not true. You can see there are differences of opinion, and there are differences of opinion on the floor. I've given my opinion, and I agree with Denise that we do have to ask for meetings sparingly, but I think the government respects us, and they're aware of others who have got these concerns about Rwanda. So I think that everyone has heard what you've all got to say today. So on my part, I'm going to take this to the executive, and I will put to the executive that I do want to ask for a meeting with the Home Secretary, and I hope that the views that I have put in the President's statement and have been putting for some time will prevail. There is concern. I can really understand why people don't want to just challenge the government, and why people think that. But as Jews, we can't just act for Jews and think that it's only us that matters. I think it's something is a matter of conscience. And that's where deputies' voices are heard, because you may change minds on this very platform about the issue. James, I'll let you very quickly, and we have to move on.
Yeah, it's just a very quick request that there be a substantial point in the next executive committee report just on this issue, please.
There will be. Thank you. Right, we're really running late. So our next speaker, I'm going to give Nick 3 minutes, and he's going to talk very worthy talk, laptops for refugees. Are you there, Nick? Hello. The floor is yours.
Right, thank you, President Marie. Yes, my name is Nick Grant, and I'm the Deputy for Mitzvah Day. However, in this instance, I'm here on behalf of the Board's Social Justice Committee, where we've been looking for some ideas of practical social action that our deputies could undertake. And as a result, and as Marie mentioned, we are now launching the Laptops for Refugees initiative, where we're going to be progressively inviting all the Jewish communities to donate their unwanted laptops and iPads, which will then be refurbished and handed over to UK refugees. And by refugees in this instance, they will be the ones from Afghan, Syria and Ukraine. To make this initiative possible, we are partnering with a screen share organisation whose remit is to undertake the refurbishment and distribution of laptops and iPads. Screenshare themselves are formerly a community interest group whose work is funded by the Blue Thread Foundation and the National Lottery, and it is staffed by Jewish volunteers. This laptop initiative, which is being launched today, particularly to coincide with the Refugee Week, which has been mentioned, starts tomorrow. Our overall plan is to start by inviting just a few synagogues to participate, asking them to collect their unwanted devices from their communities. And then, once we've learned from any teething problems, we'll progressively roll out the scheme to the remaining synagogues and Jewish communities across the UK. With each laptop and iPad received, the hard drive will either be wiped, data cleansed, or replaced so that all its information is removed, and then it will get refurbished with new hardware and software as necessary. We're expecting this laptop initiative will take 12 to 18 months to complete. You may be asking, why does this initiative need to be launched? To which the answer is to tackle the problems that refugees have. Without a computer, they can't enroll into any education or apply for jobs. Of course, there are lots of details that still need to be explained about the initiative, and we'll be putting this information into marketing flyers and explanation notes, which we plan to hand over to deputies and their synagogue administrators. If I can just quickly share a few of these details. So the Screen Share organisation is headquartered in Kilburn in North West London, and their technical team are spread alongside major Jewish communities in the UK. And the plan is hoped that the devices, once refurbished, will be able to be distributed to refugees local to laptop collection points. Screenshare have an existing relationship with a range of organisations, all of which can be on their website, screenshare.co.uk. As previously mentioned, Screenshare will wipe the hard drive on your device so that your data is deleted. But if you prefer to wipe the hard drive yourself first, then please look on the website, which provides instructions on how to do so. Moving on to the sort of laptops that we're looking to accept, they will need to be able to be switched on, have a built-in camera, be no more than 8 years old, and have a sticker on them showing that they are Intel i3, i5, or i7. And as for the sort of iPad that we're looking for to accept, the criteria is simply that they will need to have been released in the past 5 years. That completes my briefing. Do please be on standby to be contacted by one of the Social Justice Committee for your support. Thank you, and I am happy to ask questions if time permits.
Thank you very much for that, Nick. If anyone wants to know more, please let us know, but we'll get Nick's details out. That's very worthy. I'm really glad that you've spoken, and thank you for all your work. I want to say what a good meeting it's been today, and we've spoken about many topics. We've heard from deputies. It's really good to understand new deputies and to get to know each other as well. I'm really pleased that there's overwhelming support for a mission to Israel. That's going to be a job that will be a pleasure for David to lead, to organise. It's also been very good because your voices have been heard on Rwanda. I want to thank you for listening to my voice on that as well, and we will refer this back to the executive. Nothing is ever easy, but as Jews, it is important, I feel, to stand behind our values always, and to help others. Had others been there for us, things could have been very different. It's a matter of conscience, but we are very grateful to the government. This doesn't detract from that, and of course we always advocate in a very firm but fair manner. So we will take that to the executive and report back. If any of you want to contact Michael or anyone else in relation to Rwanda issues, please do so. I'd like to thank all of the board teams. Put your hands up so everyone can see you. Andrew Lee, his hand.
Lauren.
Very good. Where's Lauren? Lauren Keeles. Thank you to Lauren. And where's Sarah? Thank you. Sarah. Sarah's coming out very, very quickly. We want to say thank you to Sarah Hussein, who works tirelessly behind the scenes. Thank you, Sarah. And most of all, thank you all online, and thank you for being in the room. Please, I'm being told can you leave your lanyards for next time, and we will try and get nicer passes printed for you like we used to. Thank you. It's been lovely to see you all. Thank you. Thank you.